If you're a creative type, then I'm going to guess you have a gazillion ideas on a daily basis. And whereas most people are probably sitting there thinking, what a great problem to have, you're probably sat there thinking, yeah, but no, because I have a gazillion half-finished ideas because I'm always moving on to the next idea before I've even finished the last idea. Well, if that sounds like you, then yeah, you're not alone. Sheepishly holds up hand. I am a creative who, yeah, also starts projects and doesn't always finish them. That's why I had to get myself a planner and actually start using it to plan out projects. So I'm going to share with you how I effectively take my project from ideation through to fruition by breaking it down into manageable chunks. So let's dive in, as they say. Hey there friend, it's Chloe here, and I am the owner and creator behind Planning with Chloe, as well as a printables business called Keshinomi. And I can tell you, as a creative, I often feel almost overwhelmed by some of the big ideas that I have that are great projects that I want to get started, and I maybe preemptively start them a little early, shall we say, without putting any thought into how I'm actually going to see them through to fruition, because it sometimes feels a bit overwhelming and scary in and of itself. Like, this project is too big for little old me. How am I going to get it through to the end? What do I need to do now? Where do I even begin? There are so many questions when it comes to project planning. And then there's the other thing that as a creative, we often value our freedom. Like, we value being able to go wherever creativity takes us, whenever creativity strikes. Like, sometimes we don't always have control over when and where we're going to get ideas, when and where we're going to feel inspired or motivated. I can certainly say, as an INFP on the Myers-Briggs, I do value how things intuitively feel, which can be great when it comes to when ideas strike, when creativity is flowing. But when it comes to finishing projects, kind of holds me back. And that's where having a plan helps, because it just takes away some of the stress of coming into my studio space and sitting down and thinking, what do I need to do today? Oh yeah, I really value my creative freedom. Yay, but I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do today. So yeah, whenever I wing it, my projects never really go as smoothly as they do when I have a plan in place. And this is how I break my creative projects down into manageable bite-sized chunks. Let's see. Step 1. Define the project outcome. Now, I'd like to have a loose target that I'm heading towards. This isn't like uber specific with lots of detail, like highly defined. This is just a ballpark of, when I've got this, I'll know that the project's done, but I'm still open to the flexibility of this may morph and change a little bit as I get going in the project. And the reason that I'm saying this is because as creatives, we value our creative freedom. I've already said that in the intro, and it can be a blessing and it can kind of be a curse at the same time as well. But having that freedom, knowing that, you know, you're not boxed into this is the one specific thing that I'm going to produce, it just feels like you can still go where the creative spirit leads you. But you do still need to have that target in mind. That's where you're going to be focusing your energy. It's really important that your energy is focused towards something, even though that thing can sort of morph and change. It's having that direction that you can start to head towards, and sort of being clear with, I'm going in this direction, rather than this is going to be the finished thing at the end of it, all clearly like mapped out and planned. That's not so much important at this beginning phase. It's just having a target to start heading towards. Step 2, brainstorm ideas. So now that I've got this outcome in mind, that is the direction I'm going to head towards, I can begin to let the creativity flow, and I can let the ideas start coming out. I can start brainstorming them, and I do like to do this on paper. I like to use either a dot grid paper in my planner as part of my project planner, where I can just scribble down the ideas and start, bringing things into the real world rather than having it floating around in my head. I can get it down onto paper and begin to see what's a realistic thing that could be part of this project and what isn't. And yeah, it's just great to have that brainstorming process at the beginning during the planning phase. Step 3, organise your ideas. So we've done the brainstorming, or I say I've done my brainstorming, and I've begun to put some ideas down on paper, some thought processes, some actions, some services. Now I can really begin to organise those ideas. So I might see one particular facet of the project and be like, I probably need to have this service, or I might need this particular material or this particular product in order to produce that item, or this type of subcontractor. Whatever it might be, you can begin to start to organise those ideas that you've had during your brainstorming session. Step 4, break it down. So now that we've done the brainstorming, so no, let's go back to the beginning. We've got our outcome in mind. We kind of know where we're heading towards. That's helped us to start brainstorming ideas of how we can get from here to that target. We've begun to organize those ideas, or bring them into little groups or little chunks of things of how the project can start to piece together. Now we're actually going to start breaking it down into a plan. And this is where I begin with the end in mind, rather than beginning with at the beginning and thinking, where do I start? What do I do now? What's the next thing I need to do? That can feel really overwhelming because you don't know what you need to do next. But if you think about the end, as I said, you've got your target that you're heading towards, and you've done the brainstorming session, you've started to organise those ideas. By beginning with the end in mind, it's going to be so much easier to then work backwards. So I'm at the very last place. This is, for me at the moment, I'm working on my 2024 inserts. My end target is that I'm going to have my 2024 collection launched on my website. So what would need to happen before that? So I start thinking, well, I'd need to make sure I've got I use Shopify. So I'd need to start making sure I've got my collection within the product lineup in my Shopify, and I need to update the nav, and I'd need to do this and and I can begin to sort of start piecing together the process by going backwards. So what would be the step before that? And what would be the step before that? Now, for this process, I highly recommend you use a pencil or an erasable pen, because, and this is where, again, I like to have my project planner because it just guides me through the process. But here, for example, with my project, I started working backwards from the end, and I put down one step and then started putting in a bunch of other steps after that, and then saw, oh, actually, this step that I've put here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps back from the end, actually that needs to happen a lot earlier in the project because I can't do this particular step. So having an erasable pen, it just helps you to rejig things around. And again, by beginning with the end in mind and working backwards to the beginning, you can begin to see where, oh, actually, I would need to do this first in order to get to here, rather than doing it after this step. So yeah, begin with the end in mind, work backwards, and that is how you're going to break your project down into those steps that you can follow. I hope that made sense. It felt like a bit of a word salad. I'm quite big on the word salad sometimes, I think. Next up, step 5, create an action list. Oh, I do love me an action list. And you might be thinking, well, haven't you just done that where you broke your project down by beginning with the end in mind and working backwards? Isn't that your action list? Yeah, but no, because that's just the map of how I'm going to get from where I am now to where I want to be. That map actually has little subgroups of actions and tasks within it, and that's where creating your action checklist comes into play, because you can look at your steps, your map, your route through to the end, and you can think about what are the actions that I'm going to need to do in order to help me go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. Maybe step 4 has a bunch of actions that you need to do. So again, having that down on paper just makes life so much easier, especially like for me, when I come into my little creative space in the morning and I sit down, I can just open up my planner and look at which step I'm currently on in terms of my map to my target, and I can then come to my checklist and say, okay, what actions do I need to do today that are going to help me get through each of my steps? I hope that makes sense. Again, am I serving up word salad? Let me know in the comments. Then we're on to step 6, which is get started. But here's the thing, once you get started, just know, especially if you are creative, that you are allowed to be flexible. Don't think of a plan, and I know many creatives will think of, well, not think of this, will say this. They will say things like, and I know this because this is the argument that I used to have with myself around not making a plan. Oh, I already know what I need to do. Oh, I don't want to make a plan because it will make me feel stifled and it will stifle my creativity. And I need to be like a little free-spirited creative butterfly that can just go wherever the creative spirit takes me. Yeah, how's that working out for you? I can say, for me, not so great. But when I put things into a plan, I know that I can sit down in the morning, open up my planner, and it just takes away a lot of that almost like background anxiety of kind of knowing what you need to do, but kind of not really knowing, and always feeling like you're not achieving the things that you're meant to be achieving, or that you're falling behind, or that the project is too big. Like, trust me, you're not falling behind. Your project isn't too big. You can do it, but you do need to put some of that energy that you have in the beginning into making a plan of almost like an award-winning routine that you're going to follow. Just removing some of that background anxiety at the start means that when you come into your creative space to get on, you can pour all of that energy into actually doing what you do best, creating, rather than worrying about, well, I know what I need to do, but am I actually doing it? Have I done all of the things? Is my project on track? Will it get done on time? Yeah, trust me, project planning, it's not taking away your creative freedom. It is actually protecting it. Trust me on this. So if you feel like you need a little bit more hand holding, like you want a bit of fill in the blanks scenario, shall we say, I have got a project planner. I'll leave a link in the description. This is the project planner that I had to create for myself to help keep myself accountable on my projects. This is just brilliant if you're a creative who's working on self-led projects, where you are not just the person producing the work, but you're kind of also the client to yourself, holding yourself accountable. This is just going to help ease the process of figuring out what it is that you need to do and actually getting it done and checking things off. Another thing that I've used alongside the project planner is the brain dumping sheets. I've used these for brainstorming and organising my ideas. It's just essentially pages with dot grid and mind mapping boxes, line sheets. Like, there's loads in there, loads of different things that just help you to begin to organise your ideas, and more than just, you know, a dot grid where you draw out boxes. Having a page where boxes are already drawn out, like mind mapping boxes. Loved this for my project. It just helped me bring the items together for the collection and list out different things that would be part of that item, and just being able to see it in front of me just helps massively, rather than sort of having it all up here or sketching it out here and there and everywhere. Having this nice little bundle in my planner, it just, yeah, it takes away so much stress. And if you want to know more about project planning, then do check this video out here where I go over 4 project planning steps that just help me to stay on top of my projects rather than struggling. Until next time, planner friend, I shall see you there. Bye for now.